Alrighty, good morning. This is Dennis Miracle. I'm going to be preparing today a purse I'm calling Bullseye. And I just want to tell you the things you're going to need. You're going to need 2 pieces of lining fabric cut 7 by 11. You're going to need 2 pieces of whatever you want to use for batting. And as I've said before, I'm trying to reuse this was used for practice on the long arm quilting machine, so it's thicker. There's batting in between, but there's also uh, cotton on the top and cotton on the bottom like you'd have a quilt. 2 pieces of that cut 7 by 11. You need a piece for the front of the bag cut 7 by 11, and you need 2 pieces. All I've done is taken a piece of 7 by 11 and cut it in two, because as you saw a moment ago, there are 2 pieces of applique um, on the one on each side. So I've just taken one sheet of 7 by 11, cut it in two. So you need that for the front. You need also another piece 7 by 11 for the back, and you need actually for the little piece you can see in the center, the bullseye, you're going to need a piece of fabric, probably 3 by 3. Um, that should probably be sufficient. When I get to that point in the making of this bag, I'll let you know the exact measurement. But anyhow, okay, you need also something to connect if you're going to connect a wristlet, and this is just a piece of vinyl cut 3 inches long, 3/4 inches wide, with a key ring in the center, stapled at the top so it doesn't come loose. And this is for the 6 by 10 hoop, so you need a zipper that's at least 12 inches long, so you'll have an inch or two on the sides. And I think that's it, and I think we're ready to get started. I have stitched out, as my usual practice, step number 1, and you can, my camera, let me see if I can get this better. You can see there are 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you have a number 3 zipper, which is what I would recommend, the zipper should fit perfectly between lines 1 and 4. So take your number 3 nylon zipper and place it there. Make sure it's spaced out evenly on the sides, but place it with the, well, if you have a Baby Lock or a Brother machine, I would place the zipper head on the left, but I don't, if you have some other machine, you will know how to place your zipper, hopefully, because on this design, it's going to, at one point, go over this, the zipper itself as it tacks it down, as it sews it down right here, and that would, make it difficult for you to, if you had your zipper pull over here, it would make it difficult to, you'd have to get rid of some stitches here at the end. So I'm saying, basically, just make sure you have the zipper at the, over here on the left. That should be, hopefully that'll be fine, and you'll understand what I'm trying to tell you, because I'm not so good at explaining things. Anyhow, let me tape this down. I'm going to tape it down, piece of tape here, a small piece of tape right up at the edge here, and a piece of tape here, and let me do that and I'll be right back. Alright, I have taped the zipper down and at the 3 places I told you, and so hopefully this will hold, unlike yesterday where it got off a little bit. But let me put this in the machine and run step number 2, which will sew down this zipper. So I'll be right back. All right, the zipper has been sewn down, as you can see with the gold thread, And over on this end, you can see where I told you it sews right across the zipper. And I did that just to keep it from having to stop and cut every time, hoping to save the blade on my machine a little less work. So anyhow, that's you see how that looks. And now turn your hoop over and grab your piece of lining, your first piece of lining, and take it and place it face down. You'll see, of course, there are 4 lines here. This is the 4th line down. Take your piece of lining fabric face down and place it against edge to edge with this 4th line down. So, and make sure you're okay on the sides also, which I am. So let me tape this down so it'll stay where it should. Alrighty, now lift up your hoop and let this piece of fabric fall to the front of the hoop as it just did naturally. And take it and fold it over once, twice. Okay, and take and tape it here in the center or somewhere along the length of this. Tape this down because we need it to stay out of the way. We need the lining to stay out of the way for a good number of steps. So I believe that's secured. It's fine. And now take whatever is going to be, let me show you on the machine. Here's the pattern. Obviously this is a brother and baby lock. It turns the pattern sideways. This is a zipper on this side. Whatever fabric you want to use for the non-applique part, that's what you need to place down next. And what I'm going to use is this pretty fabric right here. I'm going to put it face down. All right, okay, here it is, and it is directional because there's print on it, you can see. So just place it, just take the bottom and pull it up like this, and that will keep it in the correct orientation. And so take and place it, the edge of it, against the edge of the zipper. Okay, like so. That's good right there. And take and tape that down. Okay, so I've taped it 1, 2, and 3, and now take and stick this in your machine and run step number 3, which will simply sew down a line of stitches right here along the bottom edge of the zipper to hold this down and the piece of lining on the back. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back in a moment. Okay, I ran step 3, and you can see here that it's sewn down just fine. But make sure you turn it over and look at your back piece of lining fabric, and inspect it. And yes, it is sewn down just fine also, because not so long ago I had it come loose in the back and it folded over on itself and created a mess. So I could have, thankfully I did look and notice that, so I could take care of it before I went on. All right, now take your, whatever you're using as batting, take your first piece of batting. You're going to place it about 1/8 of an inch under this line of stitches right here. So let me do that. That looks good right there. Okay, that looks, that's fine, I'm sure. Now take and pull down your top fabric, smooth it down, and take your iron and give it a good press so you have a nice crease up here at the top. that'll do. And all right, I think that'll do. And then stick this back in the machine and run step number 4, which will just basically act as a basting stitch. It'll go around all 4 sides here, and just to hold. I like this to be held down before we start our our quilting and our beautiful satin stitching. So go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. All right, I ran step 4, which did a stitch all the way around here, right below the zipper. And rather than take it out, I'm going to do the next step, step 5, which, as you'll see on the screen, is the placement stitch for the piece of first piece of applique. So I'll just leave it in there and run this next step and be right back. All right, you can see hopefully where this outline has run, and I have measured it, and it is approximately 4 by 4, maybe 4 1/4 or so on this side, or on this side here. So I would suggest, I think a 5 by 5 piece of fabric or vinyl should be sufficient. So I'm going to place my piece over here, which is way bigger than that. As I say, it was a piece of 7 by 7 by 11 sheet of vinyl cut in 2 to be 6 by, and I can't do the math in my head at this point. So a 5 by 5 piece should be sufficient. So place that down and put this back in your machine, and this is going to sew this piece down. So let's do that. All right, you can see that this piece of vinyl has been sewn down. I'm going to put this back in the machine, and it's going to do the exact same thing over on this side. It's going to run the placement stitch. So let me do that, and I'll be right back. All right, and you can probably see there where it has run the outline to place the vinyl. So I'm going to take my other piece of vinyl and place it like I did the other, and put this back in the machine, and now it will sew this down. And after this is sewn down, we're going to do some trimming. So anyhow, let's take care of that and we can move on. All right, you can see where this side now has been sewn down. Of course, this side was sewn down just before this. Now take your pair of applique scissors, and I'm going to give a little shout out to Famore, Famore. These are number 747. I've got probably 5 pairs of scissors, applique scissors, and this is by far the best one I have found. I think they're about $18 on Amazon. So I'm not paid to say that, but I just enjoy passing along things that are helpful to me, so it could be helpful to you. So let's start here on the side, and I'm going to cut from the side, and we're going to cut as close to the stitches as we can without cutting into them. Go all around and off, and do the same thing over on this side. We want to have left at the end of the day, or at the end of the cutting, we want to have this piece left in the center and this piece in the center left. So just trim all this other part away, and I'll meet you back in a few minutes. All right, you can see I have trimmed away what needed to be trimmed on both sides, and we're going to stick this back in the machine, and it is going to start satin stitching, I think, over here. So and then when it finishes that satin stitch, the next step will satin stitch over here, so around the edges, so we don't have any of these raw edges. So let me take care of those next 2 items, and I'll be back. Alrighty, now you can see that I've ran the 2 separate steps to do this satin stitching. It looks very pretty. I'm happy with it. It's going to do some, now it's going to do the oval in the center, and it's going to do the placement stitch. And let me run the placement stitch, and I'll be right back. Alright, you can probably see the gold placement stitch. This is approximately 1 3/4 by 1 1/4. this oval. So I'm going to use the same vinyl, and I'm going to use a piece that I cut off. Here's a piece, the scrap that came from one of these, I guess from right here actually. So I'm going to use that. There's a big enough piece there, so I suggest you look at what you've got as far as what you cut off and try to make that work. You should have hopefully something large enough, because I mean we're only talking 1 3/4 by 1 1/4, so 2 by 2 would just barely do it. Maybe 2 1/4 by 2 would make a good piece. But I'm just going to stick this over it right here myself and tack this, sew this down. So that's the next step. So hold on, I'll be back. All right, you can see the piece of vinyl has been sewn down. I'm going to take my applique scissors and trim around it, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, you can see I've cut around it, and I'm going to stick it in my machine and let it do the satin stitch. So I'll be right back. All right, you can see that the lovely satin stitching has been done there in the center. And now we probably have 3 or 4 steps of beautiful quilting stitches. That'll be done here, 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 here. And I'm going to run those just one right after the other. And when they're all done, I think there's 4 of them, at least 4. 29, yes, I should be 4, I believe. When they're all done, I'll be back with you. This will take a bit, so I'll see you soon. All right, all of the beautiful stitching has been completed, and I think it is really very pretty. So the next thing we will do is we will let the tape, take the tape off and let this piece of lining fall to the back where it belongs. And we will turn the hoop over to the back. The fabric is now turned on. It's on the back side where it should be. Take off these pieces of tape. I'm sorry I got flustered there. I got called by someone inquiring about my car warranty, that I haven't had that car for 6 years. So just had that annoyance. Anyhow, I've taken off those pieces of tape on the side. Now pull the piece of liner down, smooth it down, and tape it here on the sides. Okay, now put this in your machine and run step 18, which will just sew this down. So I'll be right back. Alrighty, now we've got a number of things we need to do at this point. So first, take off, well, no, let's not do that. Turn it over and let's make sure that it did sew down the piece of lining, which it did. And now take, as most of you know, I use paper towel as my stabilizer for these little pouches slash bags. So I'm going to take and remove the stabilizer from the back of the zipper. And so I'm just using my seam ripper, and then I just use the back of my thumbnail and go right down through here. And just tear this off. There we are. Okay, that's gone. Let me throw that away. All right, so use whatever you need, whether it's a pair of scissors, a knife, or some other object to get rid of that stabilizer behind your zipper. So that's the first thing. Now turn back over to the front of the hoop and take off this tape that originally held the zipper down. Throw it away. Oh, get off me. Get. Off. Okay. Now, take and open your zipper about 3/4 of the way. And now if you're going to attach some kind of something to attach maybe a wristlet to or cross body straps, if I were putting cross body straps, I would put them about a 1/2 inch inside, and I would place them just like this, using this as a guideline here, this row of stitching here, and lining that with the top of my ring, which I can tell where the ring top would be. So I would just tape it down right here at the top and tape this down, the metal piece down, and then I'd stick another one 1.5 inches or an inch, a 1/2 inch in over here, and do the same thing. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to assume a wristlet is going to be placed here. So I'm going to place it here on the side, just wherever looks good. I'm going to grab a piece of tape and tape down. Okay, I've got that taped down. Now you can see where the stitch line is at right here, and you can see that it's going to go right where my finger is pointing. So both the staple here and the metal ring is way out of its way, so there should be no problem. Now be sure you tape down this metal ring if you're so it doesn't come loose and get under your presser foot. So, all right, there we go. Now, I think that's the most important thing was getting your zipper inside here, or else it would be stuck on the outside of the stitches, and then it would be an ordeal to put it back in. But it's doable. I've done it many times, but no need to try that today. All right, take your back piece of fabric. Let me see, and this is a directional piece of fabric, so I see the printing is, this is the correct orientation, so I'm just going to take and turn it like that. That'll keep the orientation perfect, so line it up with what's already there, making sure you are at least 1/4 inch past the top of the zipper with this fabric. So that looks good. Then take a piece of batting, whatever batting you're using, and place it. I can't do this one-handed, but I'm going to place it right over this piece of fabric here. So let me put my camera down and do that. And then we're going to run step 19. So hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, I have placed that down, and I'm going to now stick this in the machine and run step number 19. So I'll be right back. And before I run that step, let me show you. This is a Babylock Solaris, but either the Brother would look the same basically, and other machines in this series would look the same. I'm going to raise I've got a setting here called embroidery foot height, and you see it is at 0.100. That's really low, close to the fabric. I'm going to hit that button, and I'm going to raise this way up to maybe 240 or 260, and then hit OK, because this is now fairly thick, and you want to make sure that your presser foot doesn't dredge down into the fabric and cause a disaster. So I don't know about other machines, how they handle this when it goes from something thinner to something thicker, but just be very careful and watch your machine very closely, and have your finger by the stop button in case it starts to do something crazy. So let me run this number 19, and I'll be right back. All right, I ran step 19, and let me tell you, I had this, it's fine over here, but look at this big amount, about an inch of this fabric. Now, oh boy, let me see, did that, but on this side, I didn't have, it ran out past the, past this piece of batting, so it's very close here I hope that will not cause a problem. So I didn't do a very good job of uh, spacing this properly between the right and the left side. So learn from my mistakes and do better. So anyhow, uh, it is tacked down. It is sewn down. I'm going to take now and turn this over, and I'm going to place the last piece of fabric we have, should be the last thing you have, this piece of lining fabric, and now I'm going to place it basically right over what's already there, and then making sure that it is again above this first line up at the top, at least a quarter of an inch above it, that this fabric is above it. So it'll be caught when it sews everything together. So let me tape this down. I've been forgetting to tell you to tape this down in all four corners. Well, see, I'm trying to be fast and I'm maybe not making, hopefully it'll be okay. All right, I've got this taped down in all four corners. Stick this in your machine and run the very last step, step number 20. I'll be right back. All right, that last step has been completed, and gee, I can't believe I made that mistake. That is really, well, see, no matter how many you make, you sometimes aren't thinking right and you make a mistake. So let it be, let it go, move on. We'll see what happens. So anyhow, let's look at the back of the hoop and see what happened here. Yes, it did. It left us a generous space to turn this bag through the first time. Second time we'll be turning through the zipper itself. So let's take and remove the project from the hoop. Open up your hoop. Let's look and see this top piece if there's any no tape on it. Look at the bed of your machine. Make sure there's no tape on it. I don't believe there is. Now this piece usually has tape on it. Let me see. Come loose there. Okay. See, it obeyed me. All right. No, there's none on here. Okay. Set that aside. That's done. All right. Now turn to the lining side of here's the lining side of your bag. Now what we're going to do, there's a piece of tape. What we're going to do is get your scissors that's sharp. I'm going to cut starting right here. I'm going to cut up this direction right to this point right here where the stitching starts, and then I'm going to come in from this direction and cut right over to that same spot, and this little piece will fall off. Then continue cutting here about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch away from the seam, from the stitch line, all the way around, all the way around, all the way around. And then when you get down here, just cut in like this up to this point, and all of this will fall off. So I'm going to put the camera down while I do this, and I'll be right back. All right, you can see that I have trimmed on the sides. Now we have one more bit of trimming to do, so come here to where the lining side is, pull back your first piece of lining, pull back your second piece of lining, and all of this here, which is my stabilizer, fabric, batting, etc., all of this needs to be removed. So take your pair of sharp scissors and start right, see if I can hold this, okay. Scissors and go right, no, I can't do it. Take your scissors and, well, let me do one thing first. Take this and pull both of these pieces down, both of the lining pieces, and take your iron and go right across here and crease it. That'll make it easier later on. And then take your scissors and go in right here, right above the lining. Do not cut into the lining. Cut all the way across here, like my finger's going all the way across, and remove all of this. It's junk. Throw it away. So do that, and I'll meet you back in a minute. All right, you can see I've cut all that excess off, and I have left my two pieces of batting right here, or not batting, interior part, the lining fabric. So take, and I'll have to put my camera down of course, but take and turn the bag out through this opening right here, and then I'll meet you back in a moment. All right, I have turned the bag out, and on both sides you should be looking at your lining fabric. So what I'm gonna do now is see, since we did crease that earlier, it's already turned in. So turn that piece in and take your iron at this point and give it a little press just to, all right, let's see, oops, well, that came out and now it's unpressed. All right, well, all right, it was pressed. I guess I was too vigorous with that. All right, now turn in this, you've turned in, if you creased it earlier, this is already turned in. Now turn in this longer piece and turn it in, get it down in there as far as you can, and then go over this with your iron again, because that'll keep it held, because we're going to be sewing this closed in a moment. So let me see if I can do that without it coming out. Okay, I think it's in there pretty good. Okay, now take this over to your sewing machine and sew this. You're going to sew from one end to the other, sew this gap closed, and I sew right very close to the edge of this fabric here, this first piece of lining fabric. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back in a moment. We're almost done. All right, you can see I have sewn that shut. And now take your snippers, because there's going to be some pieces of string, or not string, but thread, and cut this thread off. Well, there's going to be some, there's some right there. Turn it over, and there's a couple pieces always right here. Okay, and I'm sure you can find other pieces if you look. But let me see, here's a piece up here at the top. That's several pieces actually. All right, that's all I'm doing for now. I will do more later if I want to. Okay, now the next thing you need to do is you need to reach in and open your zipper as far as it'll go, which is that far, and then reach in and look for that piece of tape holding the metal ring down there. It is right there. Let me see if I can grab it. Yes, I can. All right, that's taken care of. Now I'll have to put the, whatever this thing is I'm holding, camera down, and I'm going to turn the bag out, and I see another little piece there. I've got to get that one. All right, turn the bag out, and meet me back in a moment. All right, now I've got it turned out. One thing you want to do is, oh, there's this string here. There's a string here that needs to be cut off, a long string. Just cut it off. It doesn't do anything. Now take and turn your bag like this and use your iron. The bag is open as far as it can go. Use your iron and press away from the zipper like I'm doing. See, I'm pressing away from the zipper. Get the lining away from the zipper. So that's what I'm telling people to do now. All right, now there we are. Okay, now take and close your zipper all the way. Oh well, I usually tell people that's not, well, it's already closed. Let me tell you, I always say to take the back piece of the zipper and mold it, turn it forward to where you want it to go, which will be its natural, the way it should lay naturally, and then it'll make it easier to shut your zipper. So there we are with that, and Now I'm going to take my pressing cloth, because this is vinyl. I'm going to place that over it, and I'm going to give this a press. I'm going to do it very quickly. I'm not going to hold it and stay in one position. I'm just going to keep moving when you've got vinyl, or else it'll be destroyed. Okay, now let's turn it over. That didn't destroy it, it just looks fine. Turn this over, and I don't have anything to worry about on this side. I'm just going to give it a good press. Okay, that's pretty. It's such pretty fabric. And there we have it. This is the Bullseye purse. I hope you've enjoyed watching me make this today. I hope you've learned something, or simply just for the entertainment of it. If you get entertainment from watching folks make things, I know I do. But anyhow, that's it for today. If you obtain the pattern, I hope you'll make something pretty for yourself or a friend or a loved one, or, as I say lately, even an enemy. Also, I just want to thank those who continue to support me and encourage me with their kind words. It's appreciated more than you'll ever know. And I'll be back tomorrow, the next day, with another pattern. So I thank you all so much, and have a great week. Bye-bye.